Welcome to the stage, Shivani Gopal, CEO and founder of The Remarkable Woman. She'll be discussing empowering women and investment in entrepreneurship and leadership. Welcome to the stage.
Hello everyone, it's great to be here and thank you Andrew for the introduction. As most of you now know, thanks to my name being up the top, my name is Shivani Gopal. I'm the founder and CEO of an organisation called Elidex, formerly known as The Remarkable Woman, and I'm here to talk to you about empowering women in investment, entrepreneurship and leadership, and why these elements are so important to me, but also to women at large, both here in Australia and all around the world. Before I carry on though, I just want to make sure that you can indeed hear me, because I'm not usually used to electones. Can I just get a quick show of hands? Yep, you can hear me all right? Fantastic. Okay, so let's get this show on the road. So, Elidex. What is it that we do? We're an organisation that champions ambition and redefines leadership. And we do that so that together we can rise higher, live louder, and lead authentically. It's an organisation that I started because of my personal experiences, my reflections, and my lessons. And it made me realise the global challenges that we women face. But it wasn't just me personally that was going through all of these experiences. And it made me realise that we as women have immense potential for greatness. Now, I know that sounds so obvious, right? Of course you would think we have immense potential for greatness, but yet we don't see it when it translates into the numbers of women who are leading socially, politically, economically. And for that reason, we often do need that reminder. We need that reminder by way of numbers. And it made me realise that we have an absolute ability to achieve our ever-growing potential. Some of those realizations were this. The first was a childhood realization where I realized that women need to know how to manage their money and we need to know how to make our own money. You see, the year was 2000. I was in year 10. I know this because I was a very, as you might not be to any surprise to any of you, I was still a very ambitious woman and wanted to be a barrister. So I went off to do work experience at a law firm, and my father dropped me off early in the morning and waved me goodbye. He was supposed to pick me up that afternoon at 5 o'clock, and he didn't turn up at 10 past 5. And like any petulant 15-year-old, I was incredibly annoyed, and I was huffing and puffing down the street saying, how could my dad just leave me here? What if someone kidnapped me? How could he do this? Oh my God, I'm just so offended, so annoyed. Then eventually found my own way home, as you do when you catch a bus and you realise you've got some resources. I came home to the horrible realisation that my father, that day, after dropping me off to work experience, had suffered a heart attack and subsequently was rushed to hospital and had 2 bypasses. I'm very happy to tell you that my dad is fighting fit and going strong now in 2022. But back then, that was a horrifying experience for me, my family. I'm the youngest of 3 sisters. And like most daughters do, I saw my dad as this incredible, invincible man who just kept powering through, kept on going. And I didn't think that anything could ever happen to him. What I then saw was my mother have to work 3 jobs to get myself and my sisters through financially, to keep a roof over our heads, to keep the food on the table. I come from a very beautiful, vibrant Fijian Indian community, one that is so incredibly supportive. And so as a result, every single day on our doorstep, we would have anywhere between 1 to about 7 different curries sitting there waiting for us. And it made me realise, you know what, you can have a community, you can have support, and you can have people who will cook for you, but it's up to you to make your own money. And it's up to you to make sure that you can run your own household. And my mother showed me that she could do that. But it made me realise there has to be a better way. There has to be a better way that we can better manage our risks to make sure that, frankly, if all shit hits the fan with our health, with our finances, that we can indeed take care of ourselves. And it made me realise if I needed to be successful in life, no matter how much I had in order through family, through work, because my parents were both, as you probably can understand, really hardworking people, you do need to have things in order. And that was a big lesson for me. And it set me on the path to eventually becoming a financial advisor and helping people with money, in particular women. Realisation number 2, entrepreneurship is normal and it's fun. There's a great reason why we don't have as many female entrepreneurs. When I look around this room, I see a great diversity of people. I see a diversity of culture, but what I don't see is a diversity of gender. And it's sad that time and time again, we come to this juncture, we come to this point where women entrepreneurs are fewer and fewer in number. Why is that? I'll share some stats with you soon. But one of those great reasons is that entrepreneurship is simply not normalized. In society, in culture, we're brought up to be taught to be good girls, to speak well, to be nice, because that is what you were rewarded for. Study really hard, go to university and get a good, stable job. And if you're lucky, find a great man, have a couple of kids. Now, I know that latter people don't say out loud, but it is implied even now in 2022. Maybe in a non-drunken conversation followed by, oh, shoot, sorry, shouldn't have said that. But you said it, right? And it happens. Entrepreneurship needs to be normalized, and what I mean by that is, as parents, as carers, as a community, we need to be talking about how entrepreneurship is part of our lives. For me, it was simply normalized because of, and you might laugh because some of you may remember this, the Besma Club. I don't know if any of you were part of a Besma Club, but my family, my mum was part of the Besma Club, and she was a really entrepreneurial kind of woman. She is rather a really entrepreneurial kind of woman who would call over her girlfriends every Sunday. We'd have a massive pavlova. I'd see my auntie come over, hold a black briefcase, and that image was so strong for me that a woman carries a black briefcase and counts the money because my auntie was a treasurer. It normalized to me that women count, make, and manage money. It was never a strange thing for a woman for me to go into financial advice. It was just normal. And seeing my mum sell Besma wares to all of her friends was normal, to be able to promote, to be able to sell. And to me, it taught me that entrepreneurship transforms you. It enables you to live all of your potential, all of your passions, and fulfill your vision through this product, through this company of yours. For my mum, her Besma Club. And I saw my incredible mother, who got married when she was 16 years old, came from Fiji to Australia with not much in her and my father's pockets, to this incredible, vibrant woman who, frankly, no one could stop her from selling that Besma and a couple of additions to you and to all of your family members, and you all went home with one. And I learned a third lesson, that leadership as women comes naturally when you have the capacity to lead authentically. That latter word is so darn important, the capacity to lead authentically without people putting names and badges on what you should and shouldn't do. For me, that lesson came in the opposite. When I finally got my dream job, I had grown up into the world and finally became a financial advisor, and my recruiter called me up and said, Shivani, great news, you've got the job, they'd love to have you. I was so thrilled. And at that point, he also gave me a bit of bombshell advice. And he said, hey, Shivani, do you remember when I first met you and you told me something? And I thought back to what it could possibly be, and I went, oh, yes, I remember now. And that something was me saying to him, Daniel, I hope I get this job. I really hope they hire me because they're not going to regret it. I'm telling you, if they hire me, I'm going to be the best financial planner that Sydney has ever seen. And he said, that's really nice, it's really endearing, but I probably wouldn't say that out loud, ambition like that, it can rub people up the wrong way. Just keep that stuff to yourself. And it was the first time that I was ever shamed for my ambition. And it was the first time that I learned the opposite lesson, which I unlearned later on, that was that I needed to hold myself captive. How could I ever lead if I was trying to be someone else? In leadership, in order to survive, you must be free to be authentic. Here at Eridex, we fuse all of those lessons into the work that we do. And we found some really incredible findings through our research. Our own native research shows that a whopping 93% of women want to grow their careers. I'm sure this comes to absolutely no surprise to you. It shows that 76% of women want to work on their leadership skills and 92% of women want access to mentoring. If you're wondering what in the world Eladex does aside from championing ambition and redefining leadership, we provide women with a platform and app so that they can very easily access mentoring, so that they can build daily habits to build their money goals, to build their entrepreneurship, to build their leadership, so that they can live to their full potential. But we found that in workplaces in Australia, they simply are not supported. And that translates into the fact that only 35% of women, despite 93%, almost every woman out there who is employed, wants to work on her career, 76% wants to work on her leadership skills. The gap is that only 35% of them make it to key management positions. As a result of that, we're starting to see through our research in Eladex and through the 6 years that we've been in business, now Eladex, previously The Remarkable Woman, if some of you are confused and probably know me as that brand, is that it has some massive consequences. When you have the capabilities, you have the ability to lead, you have the skills, and you still don't have that job, you start to do some really silly things that don't make sense. And that is that you start to question yourself because the world out there isn't fitting you. And it gives rise to great imposter syndrome. It is for that reason that 70% of women in America, this is not our own research, this was done externally, report to experiencing a very high level of imposter syndrome. Now, it's not because we women have less confidence than men, it's because we are less supported in our ability to translate our ambitions into reality than men. And because of that, we start to question our abilities. It's because of that that through one of our executive circle programs, which readies women into senior leadership, into board positions, into executive positions, we've spoken to women who've reported to CEOs of ASX 200 listed companies who still feel a massive level of imposter syndrome. It's shown us that there is a glass ceiling at every level in workforces in Australia. It's shown us that there is a glass ceiling at the graduate level because you get in and then you don't feel like you're part of a network, and so there's a ceiling there. And so as a result, you start to miss out on some opportunities. I also experienced this myself when I tried to approach someone to be a mentor in my first financial advice role and told me to come back if I was still around in 10 years' time. My fellow colleague, Michael, who's a great guy and is still doing really well, just happened to befriend him and they'd go to the pub all the time and he got mentoring on the side as it is. There was a glass ceiling there. There is a glass ceiling at every level, and it particularly gets incredibly hard to break at that very senior level, where women start to experience career rot. But it's not because their careers are rotting, it's because their opportunities are waning. It is our jobs in organisations like Eladex, who support from the ground up for women and work with organisations from the top down, but also organisations, if there are any of you who are employers here, to ensure that you are creating those opportunities because the talent is there. Another really interesting piece of research that we did through our own audiences is that a whopping 60% of women want to start a side hustle. Now, again, I talked about the fact that where are all the women, and hello to all the incredible women who are here today, but we want to see more of you. Why aren't there more of you? Because society doesn't support us to create that side hustle. Has anyone here ever received this advice when you had the ability to share, the gusto to share your first business idea? Did anyone ever first say to you, yeah, someone's already doing that? Yeah, it happened to me. Yeah, a couple of hands around the room. That's just one example of a kind of discouragement that you'll get. Another, you've got a great job. You worked for years to get your degree. You're in a solid role. Why do you want to give all of that up? Yet we're not encouraging women to start a side hustle because that side hustle sparks the ability to create a startup. That side hustle is your MVP. What's wrong with starting your MVP and having MVP thinking in order to create an MVP product, in order to create your MVP startup, in order to get to all the versions of business that we do? There's another great red flag, though, and that's right at the very tail end. And when women look down this long tunnel, if they eventually get there and someone doesn't say, yeah, there's an idea that already exists, have you spoken to that person, have you spoken to this person? In my case, when I speak to people about business, they often, instead of saying, that sounds great, I'm going to introduce you to companies who want that product, or I'm going to introduce you to companies who I think want to invest in you, they say, there's 3 other women doing exactly what you're doing, you should go talk to them. That is the most common piece of feedback I will ever get. When I speak to my fellow male colleagues about entrepreneurship, they often see the opposite. They get offers of sponsorship, offers of support. So when you do finally look down that long tunnel and think, okay, I'm going to push aside all the naysayers and I'm going to get there and I'm going to do this, can I eventually be backed? Then you see the numbers. And the numbers, they're striking. The numbers show us that 3%, and 3% is the upper limit that takes into account a couple of the unicorns that are out there. Only 3% of the world's VC capital goes to women. Yet women are capable, women are skilled, women have the ability to lead incredible businesses. We all know this through many examples like, Wallex or Canva, for example. And yet, we still hold back. It is time for change. I'm getting very close to fulfilling my time here with each of you, so I'm going to move on to our last slide. And that is that 70% of women want to better manage and to grow their wealth. The issue is that social conditioning has led women to feel that it's complicated and that it's a man's world. Now, I know this for myself. I started in financial advice back in the year when the government said that they were going to simplify superannuation by enabling, so many different kinds of rules, concessional contributions, non-concessional contributions, and all kinds of jargon that simply didn't make sense to the everyday person who just knew that they had goals financially. What do we need to do to change that? The first thing we need to do is to talk to people. What are your financial goals? What do you dream about? What is it that you want to fulfill? When do you want to retire and how much on? It's never too late to talk about that. Because retirement doesn't need to be the little house with 50 grand a year if that's not what's meaningful to you. It could be that you go to the Maldives once a year, right? It could be that you go to Europe every single year and that's where you spend the summer. But you've got to have a goal. You've got to have something that you work toward, and then you've got to go find the people that help you make it happen. But importantly, you've got to self-educate before you delegate. It's why we spent so much time at LDEX as an education platform, as a financial wellness platform, to give women little bites of learning as daily habits so that they can become better and better managers of their own wealth, so that they don't have to have other people go, yeah, you know what, that's not a good enough goal. That's not quite practical. If they're your goals, make it happen. It's up to you to make it happen. It's your responsibility to do so. And we are here to support you. That's all that I have the privilege of the time with you today. So thank you so much for having me. If you'd like to hear more, if you'd like to reach out to me or my team, this is exactly where you can do so. My email is shivani@eladex.com. You'll see my phone number there. And you can also find us at eladex.com. Thank you so much, everyone, for having me.